Say something. No.
Got him. G'day. Welcome back to the LCO. I'm Mac. Can you tell? Maybe you can't. There he is.
He said he was going to do it because he was doing
Mac from Wish.
heaps dark Aussie voices and then just
G'day,
decided
guys.
to full
Welcome
blank.
back.
Full blank. You got to shoot your shot, Skimmy. I thought you knew that.
No, I just want to make it awkward because I love doing cringe stuff. And like whenever the spotlight is on me, every single time Treon has made a gif, it's me doing something stupid and Rusty in a corner just like...
I can confirm I did that again.
I love
So
it.
I just love it. I invite it. I want it.
You spoke first and we're like, say it. What are you
Say
doing?
the lies.
Just do the thing.
It's so
Skimmy, you
Yes,
goose. Absolute goose. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to start having a quick chat about the match of the week. Let's see who we're going to be talking about first. I'm keen to jump on into the matchup discussion, but Direwolves, oh, they're looking absolutely fantastic. Skimmy, you screwed the intro, but don't screw this one up. Tell me about this team.
Nah, mate. Well, Team DLC looking the part. 5-0. You just cannot beat them. Undefeated right now. They've beaten down the big dogs, and now this is going to be the next big ask, right, up against the Pentanet squad. Big chance to see what they can actually do against them, because in terms of a style, we're still not too really sure as to really where they're going towards. In terms of some of their champions, they've really kept their cards close to their deck. So really curious to see what their response is or their approach is to Pentanet, because what we saw Chiefs do is absorb all their early game pressure, throw it right back at them, mid-game turn it around. And I feel like Direwolves are certainly well adept at handling that situation as well.
Yeah, they certainly are. Kitty, tell me about what's the win condition for Direwolves. Who are they going to be playing around? Do you think the new meta, the new patch is going to shift how they're playing this week? Or do you think we're going to sort of get the same old thing and it end up being like a Poltron and Zoranus surprising us?
Yeah, I mean, the most noticeable thing is that Yuumi is now not a priority in these champion selects, so that is going to free up the bottom lane pool quite a lot, so Lucian, Nami, Zeri, Yuumi won't be Resident Sleeper. But of course, mentioning Zoranus and Poltron on the side of Direwolves, this combo has been very exciting to watch, because I think Zoranus has really stepped up from last year. He has become another carry of Direwolves, where Chaz has always been a very stable player, and he's willing to give all those resources to his two side lanes, which sometimes is Zoranus.
It certainly is. Now, Rusty, you haven't had your 2 cents. Match of the week, Direwolves, insane so far. How much further can they take it? How much further can they take this streak? And are they going to stay undefeated?
I mean, for me, it's a battle of like early game versus mid game, where I feel like Direwolves have been team fighting really well, but oftentimes it's just being so stable in mid game that they find those little picks that get them the team fights, that get them the wins. But they're dealing with a Pentanet team that is diving early. So if you get through that and you have a playbook similar to the Chiefs, or even something different, you want to match them, right? Like be the same energy and be aggressive. Get to mid-game where they have felt the strongest and the team fights where they've felt the best. I think that's where Direwolves can find the key.
Okay, well that's Direwolves summed up with a little bow on it, of course. Little present for you guys is going to be PGG. Let's talk about them as well. Last week, couple of hiccups, but we know what they are capable of. Still, some of the best, most well-orchestrated plays have come from this team this split so far. And Kitty, what are they going to do to make it happen against Direwolves?
Well, we don't know yet, because in that interview, I believe with Chippies, they're hiding a lot of their picks for these future games. They're not showing us too much. I believe Schoenfire has only played 2 champions so far in the LCO, mostly being Vi. And of course, RP was doing some experimenting with that Caitlyn support, which unfortunately gave them their first loss. But I think even without the Caitlyn support, PG is looking very, very strong. RP and Violet as a duo is looking extremely good in that bottom lane, which my eyes go towards this bot lane matchup, because Violet RP versus Decoy and I believe Praedyth is that rivalry from 2021.
And we've seen as well, you know, I think Violet's got a couple of super fans over on the Twitter sphere. I'm seeing art coming through. Could be AI, but it looks like it was hand-drawn.
It was his missus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Marvi.
She carried us the other week.
ARAM weapon.
Certainly did. But either way, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Violet, the superstar down bot, going up against Praedyth. This is a matchup that goes back to the start of the LCO.
Yeah,
right?
that's why I'm actually, I like that point you bring there, Kitty, because this has been one of those things that we've always been so enthralled by, right? The idea of always being Pentanet versus Peace and these massive AD carry showings. It's always been Praedyth as the Pentanet AD carry. Now the shoe's on the other foot. Suddenly now Violet's in there, basically saying switch allegiances, but it's still going to be that old rivalry carrying them true again. I think Pentanet, typically speaking, have always had the advantage over Peace, but they've had some really, really cool showings over the years.
They certainly have. And look, pick a lane, pick any single lane. There is just going to be the most interesting matchup. You got Schoenfire, who has just been so strong in the jungle so far. You argued, we would have argued that he looked like the best jungler up until things started to go wrong last week. But Poltron, look, Baron Smite God stealing it, keeping the W's on the board, especially up against the likes of Chiefs, and has been everywhere he's needed to be. So macro-wise, just making all the perfect decisions. Even like this jungle matchup, I don't know who's going to come out on top, but there is just different playstyles for these two individuals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were calling Schoenfire like the conductor almost, right, of the orchestra. He's calling plays, calling waves, setting the team up to succeed. But he's also been working with a very good mid laner right now in Dongy, who's swapped roles from mid to top, played that for, I believe it was a full year, and is now back to mid. So kind of a natural habitat, but he's basically learned how to play competitive through top lanes. Like his bread and butter is top. But he's come back to mid. Is currently sitting on a 42.
Only one def.
42 KDA, which is the highest in the league by a lot.
And you verse the Chiefs.
Yeah, and
crazy.
he's got a loss in there, right? So like he's been playing really well at all times, even in those defeats, and like is definitely the star of the show for them right now. Yeah. Even if there's a conductor, orchestrating it, Dongy's getting it done.
He really is. But look, someone else that's getting it done and getting MVPs, doing everything, doing a lot of the heavy thinking as well for Direwolves is, of course, our man, Poltron. Let's have a quick chat with him. Poltron, big game today. It's the match of the week. Are you prepared for PGG? I bloody hope you are.
I am ready to win today, but I will just say I haven't actually gotten a single MVP yet, even though, I think I've played pretty well overall in the 5 wins so far, but hopefully today can be the day that I get that first one for myself.
Look, Mac, you're MVP in Mac's hearts, so that's why it counts. But of course, you are going against PGG tonight, and you've already gone up against the Chiefs, and I believe you got that dub because you guys are defeatless. So what is the biggest difference between these two super teams so far that you've seen in the league?
I will say, I think the Chiefs and Pentanet match was really skewed. I think Pentanet's draft was a very hard to execute draft, which is why they, in my opinion, kind of got obliterated by Chiefs. I think if they drafted an easier comp, it would be a lot closer. I still think Chiefs are the better team out of the two, and I also think we should be fine going into tonight's match against Pentanet.
Have you guys had a chance to scrim PGG? Because we know that they've been doing a lot of overseas scrims. We know that PGG and Chiefs aren't scrimming. We threw a storyline out there thinking maybe it's time for PGG to stop scrimming Direwolves because you guys are at the top of the table right now. Have you had any extra insight into their play style other than just the show matches or the official matches?
I think we scrimmed Pentanet once or twice before we actually started Split 1. So that was good to give us a rough idea of how we compare ourselves to Pentanet, although I'm sure they have improved since then. Other than that, I can't really comment on their gameplay or their level as a team.
Look, you can't comment on their gameplay just quite yet, but the game will show us so much information. Of course, best of luck in your match up against PGG. And some of us, I think the votes have been split, will be cheering on for you. Good, best of luck.
Hey, I'll be watching. You better vote for Direwolves.
Hey. We'll see.
Focus on draft, mate. Focus on draft. Stop watching. Just stop watching real quick. Look away.
And look, either way, I didn't get it in there, but Poltron, he needs to blame Twitch chat, of course, who are now in charge of the MVPs. Not our job anymore.
Half expecting you to say, all right, mate, talking to the camera, tell Twitch chat why you deserve it, even before the game happens.
Sell them on it, spin your bloody yarn. Either way, let's see who's getting the bloody counter picks, who's picking what side. And it's PGG, who have chosen to start on blue side. So it seems like there might be some prio picks coming through for PGG.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is that Lucian Nami. If it does go through the banning phase, now that Zeri Yumi is officially dead, then you only have one S-tier bot lane combo so far. But of course, the Varus Ashe is also very good as a flex or just combo together. They do nullify the Lucian Nami lane pretty well, but it's very a lot of questions now.
I think this is an interesting one for me because I think from memory, Chippies has always had counter picks so far this split. Obviously, you know that you can give it to him because he will deliver things like he did on the Olaf, just getting a cheeky quadra kill out of nowhere. So I'm curious to see if that same kind of strategy will unfold again, even if they are on blue side.
Well, strategies, you need them. But look, putting your Twitch points on one or the other team, you have a 50-50 chance of getting more Twitch points, and that's what the Dare fan vote's all about. So put them up there
Hot max.
somewhere. Rusty, help us out. You closest, yeah, a bit higher.
Give us a flex.
Well, that
mate.
is Dare, but yeah,
No, I'm not going to do that.
close enough. And if someone could someone could quickly go back in the VOD, screenshot how close Rusty was to pointing at the Twitch poll live, that'd be lovely. Look, either way, it is time for us to talk predictions, because this one is split down the middle, as Kitty leaked just before. Kitty's going for PGG. I mean, it's Skimmy on the same page, huh?
Yes, mate.
Keeping it undefeated. Why have we gone for
Okay,
Direwolves?
so hear me out. I've gone for something really, really eloquent here.
Mhm.
The boys and Direwolves play for PGG first.
What?
Yeah. And that's your logic.
That's my logic.
That's the reason?
They play for they play for PGG first. So
You
now,
haven't sold me.
well, like they know what PGG are about. They've been in there before. They know all the secrets. It's flawless.
So the game plan's based on the organization.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
nothing else.
flawless logic.
Okay. Rusty, tell me why PGG's going to win.
Well, you see, Mac,
Yep.
they played for peace before. So-
Yes, mate.
I think that, and it's actually very similar to what Poltron said. I
Yep.
think that the Pensinet we saw in their loss is not the real Pensinet. I think we're about to see them come out and prove that they are still as good as we all expected them to be after their first couple of weeks of play. And I think that last loss to Chiefs was a blip on the radar. And that when Pensinet are at their best, I have them top 2. I think you all have them top 2, except maybe you have Chiefs and Bliss. But you have them top 3, hopefully. So I
swim
think that you're
bullets.
about to see that they are a top 2 team, and the Direwolves have started off very strongly, but they're going to get brought back down to the rest of the pack.
Well, guess what? If PGG lose this game, they're actually tied with Bliss, so maybe it'll evolve well. We'll see. We'll see after this one. But it's time for Champ Select. It's time for Match of the Week.
It is indeed time for Match of the Week. A big ask, really, for both of us to really settle ourselves in and see, okay, just how good are these teams? It's a massive, massive power struggle for that first seed.
All right, well, straight into the pick ban. Lulu actually going to be taken away. So you talk about the Zeri Yumi matchup that Kitty highlighted. Lulu's the other version, right? Lulu can compensate a little bit and still be an enchanter for them. Pensinet, we know that they play Vi. That's not a surprise. That's nothing new. Vi's going to be locked in here for them. First leaves open the Direwolves, getting their Lucian Nami. Kitty dying of cringe off camera. Just quickly as well to hit the rest of the bans, the Elise and the Jack going to be taken away from Fire and Chippies, which lends to the Vi.
Yeah.
But the Jack's being taken away, something that Chippies is very comfortable on. Away from Direwolves, we saw them play a Karma Ash. That was removed. And a Maokai and Kindred taken away from Poltron. So focusing Poltron's champion pool, and holy moly, they want a bot lane, don't
That is
they?
a massive, massive curveball. This is the big reason, maybe the grand reveal as to what I've said. Look, you play Lucian Nami 4 out of your 5 games. We've prepared something. We've got ourselves a cheeky Tristana Rel, champions that we just haven't seen in Oblivion.
Yeah, it's a juiced bot lane. Very dangerous. And this comes back to the... I've been saying this pretty much every Nami game when it comes to draft, but the simplest recipe to deal with a Nami composition is to murder the Nami before she can exist and allow the Lucian to play hyper-aggressive by himself.
Yeah.
One of the key ways to do that is by having a hook or engage champion. Rel fits that really nicely. However, if that engage misses, Rel moves at about 1 unit per year.
Yeah,
And
you're caught
just
stuck.
gets run down by a Lucian. So you have to be very careful with how you play. You have to be very confident in your engage. And having a Triss that can follow you with zero hesitation actually lends to that very positively.
Certainly could see another historic battle between these two Stardy carries and Violet and Praetor once again. The Olaf denied, so certainly got something curated here for Big Chippies on your screen. The Talia locked in once again. All we need at this point is Sejuani not to be banned. Poltron locks that one in, and we just basically say, Direwolves, this is what they do, week in, week out.
Yeah, it certainly is pretty much exactly where they have been in the past. Not going to have a million mid laner, so the Sejuani is not going to be as invaluable, but still such a strong jungle pick right now. And you know your matchup, you know the Vi is there. Sejuani can handle the Vi perfectly fine. And so we'll see where they choose to go, because right now the Poppy is going to be taken off the board. Now Poltron does play that. You can see the Rel. That is an obvious choice. Rel can't engage if Poppy exists with W. Vi has to ult, otherwise the Poppy denies you as well. But hey, you mentioned it. Here we are. Direwolves have just got their comp so far, and they've got counter pick. for top lane.
That they do. And
The dream.
for Zorinus, we know he can literally play anything to try and answer that into Chippies, who also has a fairly expensive champion pool too. So he's got to pull the trigger this time and say, oh, get that counter pick matchup. Let's see whatever I'm feeling confident on, just goes for the Renekton.
The interesting thing here as well, though, is like you go Renekton, blind, into a Sejuani and unknown champion. What if it's a kill lane, right? Like, what if it's a Fiora and the Sejuani ganks top? What do you do, right?
Yep.
Like, it becomes difficult. And you've got a Vi that can play 2v2s, but it's just not going to be the same.
No.
Right? It's just not going to be the same. So I think Direwolves have a good option for themselves here. In fact, in reality, Pentanet have just drafted the supreme Sejuani solo lanes. So maybe they're denying it.
Possibly. Stun shocked. I mean, you really saw Chaz's reaction there thinking he's actually done it. He's locked in the Silas. Before then, we'd only seen Dongi play the likes of an Ari as well as a Rumble. Rumble denied away. They valued that far more than Silas having the pick of the litter of any of these phenomenal ult options. Which now becomes, what does Zorinus do to try and find his angle here? Goes for the Gnar.
So Gnar is fine as a pick into Renekton. It's not necessarily picked to be winning or being played towards, so I think that's the main thing they're thinking about here. This is actually the matchup that Chippy's locked in into a Renekton when he played against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So again, Gnar is fine. I think at a certain point, it might be like plated steel caps roughly level 7 or a little bit earlier than that. Like you start to run away with the lane because you can just kite in mini, and then in mega form, Renekton doesn't trade with you because you just ult one hit the wave and you're done.
Sure.
Right, so you can kind of disengage the matchup at all times. This to me indicates that the Sejuani can gank top, but is probably going to play towards bottom, which is perfectly normal given that you've got a Lucian now. I mean, you've just seen a slammed Rel Trist in response. This probably kills bottom.
And I imagine that may have been part of the discussion during draft. All right, do we look to try and play to stomp this top lane, given it is a blind Renekton, or do we say we need to triage this bot lane, need to make sure that this Lucian army does get ahead and doesn't fall victim to whatever Pentanet put together? Because as you say, Tristan and Rel, they want to get in there, but if they do, they are up a creek without a paddle, right? Very hard to disengage away with, the only way being you kill them before they kill you.
Yeah, someone's dying in that bottom lane for sure. Also pretty good team fighting compositions here from both of them in reality, right? Sejuani finding that ranged engage angle. Tristan Rel, specifically of course the Rel, but having the Renekton, having the Vi, they've got so many sources of engage. And if you're locking down an individual single carry target, Vi guarantees the Rel's going to follow through, and suddenly it's very easy to play. I like what Direwolves have done in response though with this Gnar pick, because they've added another carry to the mix. So while the pick could be strong from Pentanet, Gnar can play flanks. Chaz can play some nice angles that denies those engages as well, right? Talia stocks into the Silas, into the Vi, into the Rel with the stuns there, even into Tristan Renekton. He's going to be quite nice with the workaround, with the E, sorry. And Lucian, while very slippery, is the one who's going to have the hardest time, I feel like, in this game.
Well, let's see how this game plays on out. It is your match of the week. It is a battle at the top of the table as an undefeated Direwolves. They've already taken down the Chiefs. They now go up against their next biggest threat, which is Pentanet.gg, who have already lost to the Chiefs. And it really is a case of who is the outright best team in the league as we get ourselves ready for the playoff stage.
If Pentanet beat Direwolves and Direwolves beat the Chiefs, we have a very exciting top of the leaderboard after that first round robin. That much can be said for certain. Direwolves looking for supremacy at the top of the standings right now. If they're able to find this victory, they've beaten both of their direct competitors. And that 5-0 becomes a 6-0, threatening the perfect round robin to kick off their debut into 2023. Which wouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who was a fan of 2021 Pentanet, which did consist of Chaz, Praedyth, and Decoy.
There you go. Can't argue with that. A couple of different rune choices here, as we do have the press the attack coming out of Lucian. We've seen a lot of first strike. A bit of a change up here, given it's a much more aggressive bot lane to try and fare into.
The press the attack's a little bit more combat power, right?
Yeah. Let's see how they fare in this one, though. Push control going to be of the utmost importance.
And Rel at level 1, missing is devastating. Hitting is everything. Is going to start mounted from Appy here as well. You kind of wait to see what ability the Lucian started, but generally speaking, level 2 is the bot lane breakpoint. And it's not the second you hit 2 jumping in usually. Rel wants that 3 seconds, but with the Glacial build, as long as you've pressed E, leveled it up, and attached it to Violet the second you hit 2, you can just all in. I would aim for Decoy. You can see he's playing with them a little bit, trying to bait Appy out of the bush, keep him entertained, keep him busy. Because Praedyth started W, they don't have the dashes. So look how afraid they are.
Yeah, they have to show a lot of respect in this bottom lane because you could certainly flip it. You need the push, you need level 2 power spike ASAP. And you're flirting with danger here. There it is. For the side of Pentiment, instantly the E comes out.
But they're gone. Direwolves have just abandoned ship. They know it's not worth it. It's not worth taking the trade. Schönfire, of course, is going to do his 3 camps on the red side to clear. Quickly coupling that with Poltron, who's on the opposite side of the map. Though they have seen Schönfire. Doesn't mean a dive's going to happen. Poltron dangerous on top side.
Bot lane here, Direwolf's going to peel away from their turret to deny Schönfire, picking this one up for free. What does he do? What does he go for? Goes for the smite, dashes across the wall, maybe into the waiting arms of Chaz. Poltron also coming across through the mid lane. They don't want to give this one up for free. You're going to have to burn something more than just a flash. They're pumping as much damage as they can, but just out of range. And gets away scot-free.
Chaz, I think for a second there, was considering flashing over that Drake pit to lock him down, but there was a rel hovering, chose the safe option. Of course, look at the wave that he would have missed mid in its entirety if he did go for that play. He's going to take the safer choice, collect the minions. Good little push in there, though, from Dongy to make sure that if he wants to, he gets a free reset with no need to teleport. So far, so good for Pentanet, given that Schönfire doesn't die, but good little pressure there from Direwolves to compensate and get that flag.
Nice little bit of high risk, high reward. You certainly love to see it to start off the action here in this game. Curious to see how these lanes do play out. Top lane, as you already mentioned, is a true and tried one. Chaz obviously been the only player in the league so far that seems to have an interest in the Talia as well. Another case to be asked about mobile champions. When you think of your Rises, your Twist of Fates, not that we've seen him in a fair bit, but anything that gives you the ability to influence the map as a whole.
I really do think Talia is in a good spot to be picked in mid. So it is surprising that it's just Chaz. But it's a particular style of play, right? It's a particular style of champion that not everybody's going to be preferential towards. Let's see, hyper aggressive from Direwolves. Maybe just trying to bait out and engage, bait out a jump, but relatively muted early game stage here from Pentanet's bot lane 2v2. So much respect given by Direwolves, but they're not actually trying to force it too hard.
And I'm wondering if they've read the play beautifully and thought, why are they pushing this? Something has to be up here. We don't have any idea where Poltron is right now. If they're trying to bait us out, well, it's not one that we're falling for.
And there's no loss in just letting the wave crash. There's no loss. You just catch the whole minion wave, you're perfectly fine.
He's investing a lot of time in the spot lane though, isn't he? Just waiting it out, seeing if either Schönfire shows up or if PGG say, surely their jungler wouldn't have waited this long.
Silently judge all Tristanas as they last hit under turret. It's so difficult to do, and it's one of the best ways to play against Trist just because of that explosive charge. Every single minion that you hit takes extra damage, and suddenly 2 minions in, you can't last hit a minion anymore. Schönfire, you can see, of course, his Vice stats. It's his most played champion. Very obviously has been first picking it blind, does not care. So far, very nicely done from the jungler of Pentanet with how he navigates team fights and plays around his team with this fight.
It typically has opted for the Radiant Virtue and the Chempunk Sword as well for the Grievous, so offers a ton of utility for his team to really utilize to great avail, especially given how skirmish ever they are. Their fan vote coming in, 65% of you believing that Pentanet should be the favorites here.
A lot of Pentanet fans out there. The comedy in that Direwolves with those former members, perhaps where a lot of those Pentanet fans came from.
Quite possibly.
But alas, they are the enemy today. Poltron gets his reset off now after hovering bot lane for quite a while, is still going to be pathing towards the bot side of the map. Looking mid first though. Not going to find Dongy. Dongy's turn to roam. Remember that 42 KDA from the mid laner of PGG. Has been an absolute star of the show. Loves leaving mid lane. Silas, not as simple as an Aria. They're going bottom.
They're going for the all-in. They picked their moment on towards Decoy. That's a great bubble there from the Nami. That may have just turned it around. It's a 3v2, but Direwolves are answering back. That was their one punch, and it hasn't worked.
Violet's so low. I feel like they've just afforded themselves a lot of freedom here, Direwolves, because a reset necessary. They'll take the base. Schönfire, I think you could see, realize there's no point in going for this, right? The flash being on cooldown means that he just had to go for Praedyth. They'll get the 3 summoner spells. They'll be very happy with that. It's a sizable advantage for them, but no kills just yet.
Beautiful bubble to really prevent that kill from coming across now, but does have the Hex Flash as an option, right? So if bush control continues to be in favor of Pentanet, he can look to try and run back that play again. Won't have the luxury this time of that flash to disengage.
Dongy considering a move towards the enemy red buff, perhaps with Schönfire, but Schön says not today. Not this red buff. Nah, with a lot of freedom, Chippies was stuck under his turret dealing with the wave that was pushed in when he went for some honey fruit. We are at that point as well in top lane where Zoranus is really difficult to deal with. Having the plated steel caps, being able to just use the hyper procs, kite the Renekton around, survive, sustain through the lane with the fleet footwork. Should be sitting relatively pretty up here. This is a point where you can also start to see Nars, if they run that Demolish, try and get some procs off on the turret. You know, a la Topoon, who did it relentlessly.
Certainly did. Do miss seeing Topoon play the Gnar and just play it like a carry, pushing it to the limit, 1v4ing.
Now Gnar Cannon King.
Absolutely.
We do miss Topoon here in this region.
So interesting for me just how quiet bot lane has been, all things considered, given we were certainly amping up for one that should be kills either level 2, level 3.
Yeah, I mean, let's go a step further than that. There's no Drake taken, there's no Herald looked at. Until now, of course. The Pensinet using their bot lane priority to perhaps go for it. Doesn't even continue the charge there. They don't know. They don't know what they want. And ultimately, it's just going to be a trade of objectives. But it took 9 minutes for this to occur. If that kill lane of Rel Trist, it is relevant in team fights, don't get me wrong, but that kill lane of Rel Trist doesn't find success, that's a really positive start here for Direwolves in their 2v2, because keep in mind, when people look at Lucian Nami, they often think to themselves it's a laning combo, but it is a mid-game combo, right? Like the reason that you pick these two together is you go Gale Force, you look in mid lane with levels in E from the Nami, and you just one-hit any carry that's standing there trying to clear waves. That's where it's at its absolute strongest for your team to find success in competitive.
It certainly is. We've seen a lot of different very mobile champions caught out despite their ability to try and run away, just burst. Taking down in an instant. Eye-framed for sure. The first Dragon does go away at Pentanet. It is going to be traded, as you said. Ultron picks up the Herald. Second rotation of those blue buffs going around. And mid laners starting to profit from it. So might be a much more calm affair here. Might be just waiting for that first item, perhaps. As you say, the Gale Force, for instance, those major item spikes before we entertain the idea of running it back again. But would have been curious to see, whilst things like Flash are down in the bot lane, and try once again.
We've seen some pretty monster performances from Tristanas. I believe it was Korea in the LCK. There was a huge team fight in bot lane from a Trist, but that was a mid-Trist. We're starting to see a little bit more of that one. And one of the biggest advantages of Tristana in general is the ability to one-hit turrets. Because you put that E on, right, and just annihilate a structure with that bonus damage. Waves die with it as well, so any chance that you get to push, Tristana is very happy about it. And the trade-off here against that Lucian is he's going to try and stop you from pushing by clearing waves and by ulting you if you overstep your bounds. So that's going to be the delicate part of this mid-game once we branch out of our lanes. Seeing how they choose to play this one out. Because overall, this is maybe the slowest game of the LCO that we've had so far from our top teams.
Longest game so far has been between the Direwolves and the Chiefs. Let's see if we can beat that record. We really have ourselves some rather evenly matched teams. Would be a day for it. We've had our quickest game already at 20 minutes. So why not just do a 2-for-1 special?
Go for the longest as well, why not? So we're going to be waiting a little while, it seems like, for the next major objectives is the point that these teams are going to be putting their focus towards. A somewhat late first Drake, not insanely late, but a somewhat late first Drake does lend towards a later Soul, if that is something that Pentanet are going to put their efforts towards. Rod of Ages build for mid lane as well. Dongy is going to be pretty comfortable just scaling into this game. He's going to steal away the ultimate by charging.
Oh, they were considering it for a second, having hijacked that one away from Sejuani. Ultimately deciding that's not really the spot to go for it just yet. Waiting for that next major moment to strike, bit the next objective.
But the question is, Skimmy, what are they using this priority for? They're pushing bottom, right? They're trying to push in mid. What is it actually getting them? Is there any tangible advantages that come from this one? Because the gold has stayed at about 500 difference between them, and both teams are just farming. When we look at the scaling as well, you could look at Trist as a pretty good scaling champion, but a little bit more reliant on those resets, which generally means on the rest of the team fighting well. They have got the Rod of Ages build from the Silas, right? So that scales up really nicely. That is something that the Talia doesn't build. It's just the tier items. Terrell does get summoned in bot.
Goal difference right now really stemming from those CS advantages as well as those plates taken away. That's going to be equalized just a fraction by Direwolf summoning the Herald here in the bot lane.
All of the Sedge though. No money going into the Lucian at all. Dongy with the Sedge ult.
Dongy caught out of position right now, forced to flash away. Beautiful timing of it, has to be said. In we jump, there's the Magnet Storm, there's the pick, there's Praetor flashing away. Now stuck on Chaz's wall. He's body blocked in by his teammate, that's first blood. Violet gets it over his old counterpart and now explodes into action with a double kill.
I think Chaz tries to place the wall to separate him from the rest of Pensinet. And then Praetor dashes towards his team and just gets caught in the wall. So tragic here from the Direwolves, but finally, the moment happens. A fight occurs. It starts with Dongy getting a little bit caught here. Has to flash, but they've got the angle. They found Praetor. They go. They don't hesitate. It's the flash combo that cancels the dash out of this Lucian. He flashes. He's like, well, what do you want from me? what do you want from me? I'm stuck. Let me out. The wall can't come down fast enough, and a second kill comes across.
And that really is now back to business here for PGG. The recipe for their early game success has truly been tapped into there. Kraken Slayer now picked up. Tier 2 boots are there.
Zoranus not close to Mega just quickly on this potential dive in top lane. Sejuani no ult as well and no minions. This is tough.
Jimmy's trimmed the waves when they go for the kill. Can they find it? He flashes in. Dominus active. Can he take down one? He may.
He's going to get two.
Oh my god, what a stopwatch. Unbelievable. Nearly got a 2-for-1.
That could have been insane. Had the Core Drinker in base as well. We're very happy getting the kill, but good little dive there from the Direwolves. Clutch stopwatch. Dicey dive, but they make it work. Flash was also there from Poltron. I just don't think he was perhaps ready for that instant flash and extra damage. Either way, they'll get the structure, right? Immediately bounce back. And at least trade with Pensinet's advantages bot side.
Absolutely. 1-for-1, either side of the map right now. PGG that found themselves ever so slightly a lead. Let's watch it back again, see what Poltron does here.
Yeah, so Poltron's going to have to tank this, right? Chippies clears the wave. The Q misses. Poltron's just tanking for his team, which is why I suspected perhaps he just mistimes it and does. Just miscalculates the damage output. Especially with Zoranus ticking over to Mega and Chaz having a stopwatch. That's just a mistake from Poltron. You can't put it any other way. Chippies, credit to him, tries his absolute best. Dodges out on the seismic shove. Tries his absolute heart out to make that work. And, I mean, he'll be rewarded with one for his trouble.
Absolutely, he will be.
Gifted. Charity.
Top laners certainly do need a little bit of that. A little bit of love. You can see right there, Violet is ever so fed, not to be surprised, as we saw him pop off in that team fight before, but it's Zoranus that's surprising me. He's doing exceptionally well here. He's right up there at the top. Trinity Force in the bags, ready to go.
Yeah, he's in a very comfortable position. A lot of money just went into the pockets with that first tower. Chippy's going to be the focal point again. No flash.
Yeah, he can slice, but he can't dice, so he gets knocked on back into the waiting arms. Dominus active, tries to slice and dice, or tries to do a bit of more damage. Ultimately going to fall on down. That's an ult just for good measure. Why not?
Appy cancelled.
Tried a great bubble. There's the tidal wave. Appy in trouble. It's very squishy because it is a glacial augment. Destroy the blast cone. And you're not going anywhere. Now what can PGG do to try and answer back topside? Zoranus in a 1v2 of his own. Slams Dongy into the wall. He's going to just outrange it. Oh, punched! Leaps into action. He wants more. Says, come at me, boys.
Not going to be able to defend the turret here, though. Zoranus plays that incredibly well. The Sheen proc that comes out of just the Mega Gnar auto attack locks him down. The house can't find the target, but the auto attack does stay true. And Direwolves, they make a play bottom. They make a play in the jungle. They get kills top lane against the grain of Pensinet, and suddenly this game starts to swing momentum-wise towards them. We'll see this again bottom. It's a tough life to be Sejuani in this situation because you have no melee champs to help you out, but we'll get the auto attacks off. Even after Chippy's stun, they'll find their mark. At this point, Violet has no choice but to go away. The culling has been thrown out at him, and then Appy, just a little bit too late on the disengage, chooses to jump but gets hit by the bubble, and he's done for. Top lane, the most important thing here is that Zoranus survives through, hits the ult onto the correct member of Dongy, max range, and then jumps, has the Sheen proc from that jump. and just slaps him with a hand.
Tell you what, the man is a firefighter. You've called the emergency services. He's TP'd into the action and says, I'll defend this one with my life. Oh, knock back onto 2. They've spotted you in the river there.
Spidey sensors on overdrive, they knew exactly where they were. 2 teams standing 5 feet apart in bushes. No one willing to make the big play, just a bit of poke there from Chaz. In the terms of summoner spells, pretty much every summoner is about to be up and available in regards to flashes very soon, barring chippies. A good opportunity for these teams to really station themselves at the next major point of fighting. 2 Drakes secured from Pentanet means that that's their obvious point. Their obvious port of call. Only the 1 outer turret remaining in mid lane as well, so they would like to be able to break that one if possible, but very difficult to do against the Taliyah composition. Very difficult to do against a Lucian Nami when they're protected. But that's what they'd want. Let's see what Pentanet get to do.
Wouldn't be surprised to see them group up in mid lane once again. We've certainly seen a bit of attention thrown towards these side lanes if we are going to have a bit of an ARAM affair. The next Dragon, not too far away now, up in the next minute. And as you said, with all those summoners up online, this could be the big turning point in this game because we're once again deadlocked at 32k gold.
Radiant Virtue online as well for Poltron, where it's the Kempang Chainsword from Schönfire, building towards the Radiant Virtue second, just in terms of team fight survivability. Poltron very happy with this one. Dongi steals away the Sedge ultimate. Wants to lock the enemy team into a prison. But they haven't cleared out all of the wards right now. Sweeper is available for Appy. 2 control wards as well available for Schönfire. But they've missed 1 ward in the most obvious place, the first place that people look. So Direwolves have all of the information they need to counteract.
They certainly do. It must be said that Zoranus is incredibly strong right now. 2 items complete. Just gone back to base and picked himself up the Black Cleaver. Massive bounty, sitting at 3-0 so far.
Army backing him up as well in a couple of those skirmishes. Chippy's going to have to start this one off with a bit of health missing. Ocean Drake helping him just a little bit to get back to full, but it's 25 health a tick, and he's going to get hit by the Drake, so that's gone. Zoranus Mega.
Behind enemy lines, going to be face checked
Look at
here by
Dongi.
the Gnar. Zoranus. I don't know yet. The Dragon has been started. Here
Dongi
we
might
go.
throw the Sedge ult on a decoy, could kick this one off. They might wait for the Mega Gnar to go.
We're in. They know where Zoranus is. He leaps away. He gets knocked up into the air. Stop and battery. Everybody comes in. There's the tidal wave. Put them to sleep. Put them down. Double kill here for Chaz. That's what you need. Close quarter combat. That's what a TLA loves. Chaz is having a field day here. Triple kill. You think you've got the backline bait. No, Direwolves have read that one beautifully.
And Pentanet choose to engage onto a Gnar in Mega form. They don't want to wait. They felt pressured by the Drake. They said this is the moment, and it really was not. With 0 hesitation, Chaz finds a massive flick with that seismic shove. Direwolves, they'll get the fight, and they say we don't need the Drake. Why would we go for the Drake? There's a Baron.
We've yet to have a game go to distance to even consider an Elder Dragon just yet because we just have fights like this.
And it does baffle me on why they go for Zoranus. You could potentially just go for the Smite steal, play around the fact that you know Zoranus is there, but he jumps towards his team, Viol comes in, and they've put themselves into a choke point against the Taliyah, who with the initial shove locks them down, shuts down the fight. It's Direwolves' fight to lose, and they're not going to lose those on a silver platter.
Curious decision-making, to say the least, given how things had all been set up so meticulously well with the vision control. Behind enemy lines. Just pulling the trigger on a target they may now have regrets upon. Their Constellation will be second place. They will pick themselves up the 3rd Dragon. Now putting themselves on a soul point to look forward to in the next 5 minutes, but it is Direwolves that are now redeploying with a Baron buff in hand.
And feeling supremely confident with how this one has been playing out for them now. Right, back-to-back skirmishes, decisions that they've been making have been solid, their fights have been solid. And Direwolves are a very good team-fighting team. That's one thing we've learned from the LCO thus far. Dongi desperately searching for these flanks, looking for these avenues of entry. They haven't been able to find it. Chaz, deathless. Only 1 death from Praedyth, and that was a really tragic Taliyah wall that locked him down. And Zoranus on a rampage. He's unstoppable. Renekton, once again, not finding the most value. has been handled very nicely, and now Direwolves just have this top laner that's going to be a constant issue.
Both top laners have certainly found their success in some crazy 1v3 shenanigans. But it is Zoranus that has profited the most of them all. It's all about setting up these waves, shoving in as much as you can, and bridging that gold lead to be something much more than just a couple thousand.
There's the Navori Quickblade second actually here from Violet if we want to quickly touch on the changes to the items, right? So activating at 40% is invaluable. Poltron. They might actually look here if they find Chaz.
They certainly are. They flash into action. Ult onto Chaz. Can they find the kill? That's a coming from across the wall to act as a bit of a deterrent. Poltron just stands guard. He's not interested. Dongy jumps in, throws down the ult. TP comes through, flashing away to safety. That's Chaz in trouble. He felt like he got away, but it is Violet that picks up the shutdown. In comes Zoranus. He needs to protect that bounty, so he flashes away.
Gets himself out alive, wallops backwards, so doesn't quite have the stun combo that he would have liked, had no choice but to jump and flash to safety. Well done by Pentanet. They found the pick after the recalls were confirmed by Direwolves. They do get Chaz, they get that shutdown. It took a while, a lot of effort, and there could have been more kills if it was closer, but mechanically, Pentanet weren't committed to the kill completely, and that's one of those things, if you watch the replay, you'll see their hesitation.
Yeah.
Like Violet will jump in, he'll then be afraid of the Sejuani ultimate and not auto-attack. Renekton will come into the place, like here he's juking instead of auto-attacking Chaz, then just puts the E onto Poltron instead. Renekton's going to flash into the wall instead of over, and then has to use the slice to cover the distance. So like these little details, that's 2 kills, not 1, right? Like they're so close to getting exactly what they're after, and then lucky for them, of course, Zoranus presses W backwards. He's like, I'm out. I've made that mistake. I'm not staying around any longer than I have to. But they got the picks right. They got what they're after. The main thing I wanted to say, Skimmy, as well, with this Navori Quickblade that we're seeing second from both ADs is I feel like for Trist, it's nice to have that extra ability damage, but it's about the E and the ult, where for Lucian, it feels like it makes a lot of sense, right? Consistent damage that comes out of the culling that you throw down. I'm curious if that's the staple build for champions like Trist as well now, because I mean, it exists all game. It's just so valuable to purchase second. IE is dead.
If you've got mobility, then why would you not want to try and tap into that magic, right? E ability is just a little bit too strong for either of these. Great bit of vision to rather catch out the Direwolves. Looking to try and force those recalls back.
But you know what? It is funny because Freak was tweeting, yeah, just go build IE second after the patch notes. But the reality is people are now building Navori second. It's like, oh, what about my IE?
I think it's always interesting as a game designer, right? When you try and deploy these changes, hoping it sways in a certain way, and either player perception or just the math is done, and people say, you know what?
Yeah.
How about this?
And player perception is one of the largest parts of it as well. There's been times in history where a champion got a new skin and became meta. You know, like that's because the new skin was so cool that someone picked it in the scrims and they're like, actually,
It's not bad.
actually kind of works. Like things you're not expecting, right?
You're
Like,
not wrong.
the way players feel about picks is obviously a very big deal. For example, Chaz playing a champion that no one else is playing in the LCO with his Talia. He's just so comfortable, so confident on the pick. I think it's good right now for sure, but no one else is picking it.
Well, PGG will have something to try and pick up here in a second. Another minute, and they can play for their soul point. Cloud Rift, so extra mobility. Wouldn't go amiss here. Try and chase down these kills and lock down the Direwolves, whose gold lead was far bigger just a minute ago,
Yeah.
but has shrunk back down to just 3k.
And 3k is a climbable amount, right? But when it comes to map control and positioning right now, Pentanet are the ones at a deficit. When it comes to making this team fight work, they are the ones who have the harder job of the two. Drake started already low.
This one feels like it's a bit of a 50-50 flip right now. They're going to just completely disengage away from this one. Poltron goes in, he gets locked in place, stunned, no, cannot steal it. That's being picked up by Schönfire. The rest of the Direwolves turn their attention to try and take away Dongy. Dongy's living, but he's baited out time. Stopwatch, dead, Chaz deleted. And the PGG steam train just presses forward one by one. They isolate here, and one by one they seem to try and fall on down. Zoranus, though, a little bit too slippery, and thankfully can disengage.
And it reflects through the damage dealt in that fight, right? 4k out of the Trist, 4k out of the Lucian. There was fights on 2 different fronts. The AD carries were in 2 different places, and that's where members were dying. They're going to let Zoranus go for now, but Pentanet, they see the Baron in their sights. They've got the Cloud Soul confirmed. But Praetor's still here, Zoran is still here. There's some danger, there's some damage. Do Pensnet respect this one, or do they commit themselves to the Baron? I think Praetor wants this. He wants the dash for sure.
Try to hit the bubble. It's not going to be enough right there. Can they try and steal this one away? It'd be such a tall ask.
It was a smiteless fight, to be fair, it was possible. And they know that because there was a smite fight at the Drake. But they're not going to be able to get that one. Big thing here, Skimmy, is the Poltron commits to the Drake. He is the first casualty of war here. He smited at about 1400, gets it to 170, but had no choice because his health was so low. But then Chaz is kind of caught between fights. The rest of his team's doing so well, he's obviously going to come back and assist if he can. But Appy finds the angle then, right? And at this point in the game as well, Schönfire has enough items that his Q cooldown is about 3 seconds once he's ulted. And so he's just locking you down, constantly throwing those charges out, just assaulting and battering everyone in the Rift.
That total gold has not changed at all in terms of who's at the top of the table. It still is the Zonas Violet show. But it was a really impressive showing there by PGG to pick up both major objectives, to pick their targets, I suppose, to stay more grouped up and more convinced as to what their overall aim was.
We spoke about how good Dongi's been. He is having the quietest game of all of PGG right now, right? 0-2-3, he's the one that's being focused in that last fight. He's not having an impact in the game right now. Chippies is playing as kind of like another tank for engages for the team, grouping up in these 5v5s, where if you look at the other side, Chaz is a threat, Praetor's a threat, Zoranus is a massive threat.
Yeah.
So it's kind of coming down to a game of like Violet versus Direwolves. Violet and the boys versus all of the Direwolves.
And how many times have we seen that in his career since the LCO began, right? 30 minutes comes into action, you say, Violet's going to do something special.
Yep.
We've seen it happen so many times. 3 items complete, you're just now waiting for a crucible, a stopwatch, some way to make sure that if Violet does get called out, he doesn't fall down.
Chippies jumps over the wall there. That was really dangerous from him. Extra damage into the hands. Violet has some lifesteal, wants to bounce and get that back if he can, because they want to utilize this Baron buff, but really nicely done by Direwolves. Probably dissuades anything further here. For now, they need to be out of combat. Get that red buff life still on. Chippies times it correct. We're playing with fire on multiple fronts. But nobody falls. And they really want this mid lane outer turret.
They really do, and you can see that now. Dongi's peeled away to the bot
Appy.
lane. Hold there for a second. Appy's found the angle. Appy's found the Magnet Storm. In they go. In they jump. Violet looking for the kill. He's on to Chaz. Chaz dead again. Doesn't matter if you've got a zone use. It does not matter at all. Schönfire going golden. Is he going to die? Zapped by the Laser Evolution. That might be all she wrote in the mid lane.
And it's so close to getting extra. I don't think Violet wants to go for more, right? The killer instinct not being seen from him. He could have maybe flashed, found decoy. Could have maybe done more. But just wants to take the small win and continue to push with that one. See if they can break further structures. Use the Baron buff that they earned earlier. And they'll get themselves 2 in mid lane as well as a pick. And you take that, right? And maybe an even fight overall, but the structure's favorable for you. And we are now seeing a battle of the ADCs. And Appy is the absolute hero of the show. The second the turret dies here, because the explosive shot will come through. That'll damage everyone, by the way, as the turret falls. Appy finds that angle, and then it's just Schönfire and Chippies trying to tank for the team. Unfortunately for Schön, a little bit too close, gets hit by a really nice Q by Praetor through the minions.
Tell me Violet last year wouldn't jump in though to
That's
try and
what
get
I'm
those other
saying.
2 kills.
That's what I'm saying.
This really is a case of them not biting off more than they can chew, because I know what I've seen Violet do
He's
in the past.
cautious this game.
It is. I know how close this game is. And even if we are just playing for the group stage seeding, it means a lot clearly from the rivalry that even we've portrayed between the top of the table teams.
But we are at a point in this game where Appy is becoming a really big issue, right? The Evanfrost build, amplifying damage from the rest of his team. The Navoria Quickblade, amplifying damage done from abilities. If the Tristan is able to freely auto, that's what Rel provides. That's what Vi provides. One person dying from Direwolves and suddenly the fight can very quickly swing the way of Pentanet. But Praetor's having a fantastic game himself.
Really is that battle between the AD carries. There is the QSS now being picked up by Violet as he takes the crossover to level 16. I said before this, we've yet to have a game go to distance to even look at an Elder being on the menu. Well, that is now up in the next minute.
That is right. As it stands, both teams are going to start their dance for vision. Mid-wave, mid-lane priority obviously coming first. Right now, Direwolves grouped up as 5. There is a Renekton in a side lane. Direwolves know that.
Oh, Poltron jumps in. There is the culling. Shun fires the target. The wave knocks him up. That's the shortest dash you've ever seen. And Praetor deletes any chance.
Whoa.
A flash, stun, dead.
Praetor's
gone.
gone.
Shut down Magnastorm, shoved him to the wall. What can we do? Look at that. Sorinus, you absolute beast. He tries to clutch it for his team right now, but he's forced to run away. Chucks back a boulder. Violet's still living. Violet fragile, but picks up a double, and PGG have eked out the victory.
And no matter how much of a hero Zorinus is, the rest of his team was already gone. He's going to try and deal with the minion wave. Kite Chippy's out, which he can do. Let's see what he gets done, because if he controls this wave, they only have Elder. And they cannot stop him from doing this, so they're going to go towards the Elder Dragon. Zorinus in a dream does keep them from losing inhibitors. But what a team fight from Pentanet without their jungler. This starts with Direwolves recognizing that it's a 4v5. They find the fight. The culling comes through. The tidal wave comes through. Schönfire is gone. But Chippy's in the bush. Flash W. Violet freely hitting. It doesn't matter that the exhaust goes on. He's gone. And then really nicely done here from Zorinus to hit the stuns into the wall. But you think about the amount of damage that was missing at the forefront of this fight. They're able to persevere and push through this one. Violet surviving because all of that damage was gone. If Praetor lives that initial engage, that could be a wipe.
It certainly is becoming a game of which AD carry can weather the storm longest, who can stay alive to really dish out that impressive damage. 6-0 now is the Tristana from Elder to Baron. And Poltron's got to check this one blind, but how do you get in here?
I don't think you do. I don't think you actually even want to go for the steal and die. If you get it, fantastic, but it's a 4v5 against an Elder Dragon. So he's just going to choose to back away. The goal is time for Direwolves, so Pentanet is using the buffs that they have. There's an inner turret in bot lane that should be objectively free compared to the rest of the map. Direwolves going to pillage that jungle before they push towards the obvious side of the map, so well done by them. But how do they deal with this storm that is incoming?
Well, here we go then. Gearing up for a 1-4 split. Planted in mid lane, looking to shove that one in. Looking to try and expose themselves. An inhibitor for the taking. They've got every single buff the game could offer right now.
The objective is clear. It is kill Violet if you want to win this game. You've got to get through a bunch of tanks. A prolific frontline to protect him. And so much damage coming out of this Tristana. One inhibitor sure to fall. Just waiting for that Elder Dragon as it's 3/4 of the way through to pick your moment to fight.
Second inhibitor in sight. You just have to turtle. You have to wait at that, as you say. You cannot afford to take a trade given the deficit you're at. 5k gold lead, that's the least of your concerns right now. Make it 6 Nair. Hijacked ult, doesn't find anything there from Dongi. Tries to chuck it at Sejuani. Not going to find his moment now.
This is their last wave with the Elder Dragon before it drops off. See what they want to get done here. Zorinus is about to tick over to Meganar, so the timing can work for them.
One next to turret
Poltron
goes.
goes.
Poltron zaps in. Elder is still there just for a moment. Heal goes out. Looking to try and find a moment. Seismic shove, not going to find a flip. Next is turret number 2. Bubble goes wide as they are desperately, frantically trimming this wave. Disabling that Baron empowerment.
Zorinus just lost his Meganar. Poltron has no ultimate to throw out himself. Decoy, no tidal wave. This becomes really difficult to defend, and Pentanet didn't even engage yet.
And we go, start on battery, onto one target. Magnastorm onto 3. That's the lockdown you need. That's the kill. That's double for the Tristana. Violet means business.
Oh,
he
Violet.
says, I used to not play for them, but now I'm dead. Praetor comes in, tries to be the hero, but it does not matter. The Nexus falls on down, and PGG upset the perfect scoreline.
And as we came into this game, we spoke about Pentanet perhaps having a very strong early game as a team, right? And it came to mid-game and they weren't ahead, and suddenly the Direwolves found their stride, they found their strength, they found a lead. But when all was said and done, it feels like a trip back in time where we had Praetor versus Violet, but only 180 carry was putting out enough damage to win a whole team fight. And it was Praetor that gets caught, and it was Violet that gets to freely hit. Crazy game. fantastic game between our top 3 of the leaderboard as well.
Entertaining, absolutely entertaining. And now we've got this weird paradox of like rock, paper, scissors. Pentanet beats this team, Direwolves beats them, and Chiefs, well, they'll be watching and thinking, where does it go coming into group stages?
Three-way tie. Three-way tie. Three-way tie. I don't know. Let's see if the chant continues. Of course, it all depends on how the next couple of games go. But what a bloody thriller that was. Looked like Direwolves were running away with it for a little while, especially towards that mid-game. And then Elder goes. Bloody Schönfire goes. They win a 4v5. Just, you ask for anything? You honestly can't ask for anything more that game because it was just insanity, Kitty.
Yeah, probably one of the slowest early games we've seen so far into this split. But of course, these team fights were so cutthroat. And we see that this fight was the reason why Dives really came back into the game, because Chaz just got the nastiest combo in this tiny choke where it landed abilities on pretty much the entire PG comp. But obviously in the later game, it was just a battle between the two ADCs, which was Violet and Praedyth. But during the Elder fight, I believe, Praedyth just walked up way too far up, and missteps like that just loses you games. And especially later on into the game, you have that Tristana with her range, I believe 600, and you just aren't able to touch her unless you have your teammates engage onto this AD carry. But of course, RP also another big factor in why PG got the win today. His combos were just absolutely nuts, and the way he engaged onto these team fights were just insanity. And of course, I need to give credit to Zoran, as I think he still played all the team fights extremely well. He was just focusing down Violet so he couldn't DPS, but unfortunately, when your carries are dead, you're just a nah, and there's only so much you can do in these team fights.
Yeah, suffice to say, Zoranus is one of those players who didn't deserve a loss, it feels like, in a game like this as well. Played out of his absolute mind.
Yeah.
But when all's said and done, Mac, it is very refreshing to have on our screen Violet winning a game in the way that he did, because that's the Violet that we know and love and have missed in the LCO for a while.
Yeah, flawless as well, top of the damage charts. You can even see it was like, the gold was relatively close for a while. You know, they had that Baron buff. The Direwolves were still up, and then towards the end of it got completely even, and then they managed to get another, another Baron, as well as the Elder. It was just crazy, crazy scenes here on the Rift today, and oh, wow.
Our new longest game as well.
It
beat the previous record by 30 seconds. So we've had our quickest game, our longest game. We've had an Elder as well. We've had a game where 6 items have been purchased. I mean, it's all happened. We're just playing bingo, knocking them all down.
What's next?
I don't know. I'm
Where do we go from here?
speechless.
Most kills?
I feel like nothing's going to live up to that. I can tell you where we are going to go. It's straight into the interview with my man, Ultraviolet. We haven't had a chat yet this split. Violet, how are you feeling after that game? Bloody flawless.
I'm feeling pretty good. I think our macro was like a lot better that game, I'd say, but I don't feel too good about my own performance. I think I griefed a lot of team fights, but we ended up winning anyways because they're just worse.
What do you mean you griefed a lot of your own your team fights? You were the top damage charts on that Tristana, so please don't put yourself down, King. And let's talk about this Tristana and Rel matchup that you guys prepared up against Praedyth's Lucian Nami. So walk us through this matchup and why you decided to opt into this.
Actually, we actually didn't get to play much on a new patch because like the teams that we were scrimming against, like PCS and Vietnam, like they were playing on a previous patch, so I had like 0 scrim time on Tristana Rel. We were like talking about kill lanes that we could play, and Scott was like, just pick a kill lane, and then we just came up with Tristana Rel, and we were like, okay, we'll just play it with 0 practice, and it ended up going well.
How does it feel, you know, bringing Appy with you over to PGG, down to that bot lane? You know, he's been every bloody lane, of course, but we haven't heard your opinion on this because we haven't got to chat with you yet. Do you think he's doing, you know, as well as the next man? Do you think he's one of the best supports in the league in the LCO at the moment?
I'd say, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't exactly say Appy's the best support in the league right now. I think he's still got a lot to work on since he's just role swapped to support, but he's definitely improving like a lot quicker, playing against like better opponents in scrims, and I'd say this whole team has like a similar mindset towards improvement and how the game should be played, so it's been pretty smooth sailing in terms of improving as a whole.
We saw Api pull off some very nasty rel engages later on into the game. So of course Api, he did have his moments from that last game. But Rusty mentioned this earlier where we've seen a lot of discipline coming out of you, especially on this Tristana. We were kind of joking about it, how back in 2021 you would probably jump in and go for more kills and just make the play way too long and maybe give the enemy team some angles. So why is that? Is it because of Schönfire?
Yeah. Nah, I'd honestly give a shout out to like Schönfire and Scott. I think they've like a lot of the mistakes that I feel like I made back in like 2021, or like 2020 in terms of like how I played a game. It's I wouldn't like use my brain that much, but like they've like tried to help me like to critically think more about like just everything about the game as a whole, not just like my own individual self. And I think that's what helps. That's what has helped me become more disciplined and like playing for like the team over like rather like focusing on my own individual play as much.
Well, the new and improved Violet is definitely new and improved, and we all love watching it. You know, a little bit of self-control goes a long way, and you've got the dub over the only team that was undefeated up until now. So we'll let you go. Enjoy the afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow, Violet.
Thank you.
All right, $2. Who was the guy lurking in the background?
Dongy.
Appy.
I didn't pay enough attention.
I'm going to say just because of where they sit. If they're in competitive order, Appy was going to his support chair.
I'm joking, I don't have $2. But anyways, it could have been Api.
Well,
waiting for $2.
Do you
if
think...
I'm right. We actually don't know if we're right yet.
Do you
Who was
think
that?
Api was the Dare MVP? Or would it have been that man on your screen?
It's so
What
tough.
is the
Or would
hive
it have
mind
been-
of Twitch chat vote
I reckon
for?
they'll go for Violet.
They'll go for Violet
They
because he
will.
had a KDA.
For sure.
Do you think it was someone from Direwolves?
Could be Zonas.
Could be. Let's see who Twitch chat's chosen as the Dare MVP. It was the man we had a quick chit chat to. It was Violet. Big performance, 8-1-2 with 76% KP and almost 40% of the damage in a game that was that long. That is big from him on the Trist today.
Yeah, I mean, very nicely done by him. Like you heard in the interview, he's much more reserved now, thinks critically about how the whole team wants to play and feel out. And with a lot of experience backing him in that roster, very easy to make, you know, those team decisions. And a good little debut from Violet in the new flavor of style that we get to see from him. Because up until this point, we've just seen aggressive diving, and it either works or it doesn't.
Kind of like mailing lists. They work or they don't. And either way, if you join it or you don't, you're not, or you are going to get on the mailing list. But I reckon you should be on it. It's an exclamation mail in the chat if you want to sub to the mailing list. You get all the LCO information as soon as it comes out, sent to your bloody email, and that's the best place to have it, of course, because then you don't have to set up meetings. You don't have to go to all these insane websites. You don't have to do any of the Googling yourself. It's just all there.
Are you on the mailing list?
It's all there. I am.
Do you leave like a really inspirational quote at the bot lane? Like, in bronze, use your summoners. Like,
Stop
just really
inting.
inspiration. Exactly, like really inspiration. Like, you know when you load into Summoner's Rift, it has that one-liner
Tool
tip?
tips.
What if that was on the LCO mailing list? Max tooltips. To win a game, you have to press play.
I've got to talk to the producer.
Just
I
really
think.
forward.
I'm going to go talk to the producer because I just came up with a great idea for the mailing list. But ladies and gents, we have a little bit of action and the debut of Peace coming up just after the break. We got Chiefs, we got Peace. Let's see them playing in the LCO this split for the first time.
There is a Renekton in a side lane. Direwolves know that.
Oh, Potron jumps in. There is the culling. Schönfire's the target. The wave knocks him up. That's the shortest dash you've ever seen. And Praetor deletes any chance.
Whoa.
A flash, stun, dead.
Praetor's gone.
Shut down Magnustorm, shoved him to the wall. What can we do? Look at that. Sorinus, you absolute beast. He tries to clutch it for his team right now, but he's forced to run away. Chucks back a boulder. Violet's still living.